All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Car Guys to a special edition Formula One episode. Thank God Formula One is back, baby.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yes.
I'm so happy.
Let's go.
I gotta be honest, man. It felt like a lot longer.
Dude.
The break.
Well, it was like we had a break and then we got a race. And then it's like, Formula One's back. And then it's like we had another big break. And it's like, y'all are killing us.
We didn't do that last year, but we have more races this year, right? But I mean, good Lord, it felt like a long time.
That one's a hot minute.
So we ended before the break. We lost Daniel Rick, right?
Yeah.
We lost Danny Rick.
We've been talking about him all season.
Yep.
And his final race was last race.
So we lost Danny Rick. We gained Liam Lawson.
Yep. Welcome to Formula One, Liam Lawson. Congratulations. Again, yeah. Well, in this time it's actual like, well, I don't know.
It's still temporary.
Yeah, this is temporary as well.
It's still temporary.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah. So we've got Liam Lawson and we have Franklin Colapinto, which is in there, and he's doing great, right?
He is.
So there was so much hype around the Austin GP. So much hype.
Well, it's a big race this year.
It is a big race.
A lot of people's points finish for the rest of the year depended on this race, really.
And it was a big weekend. I mean, you had arguably the largest or the biggest game of college football this weekend. So a lot of celebrities were in town for that. A lot of celebrities were in town for F1.
If you were in Austin,
yeah, I would have checked out. I would have been like, hey, I'm renting my house out or something.
That place. If you had a house in Austin, you better have rented it this weekend because you made a killing.
Oh, I'd have been gone. But we start off with practice, and then we get sprint qualifying, right?
Yes.
Now, I was not around when sprint qualifying happened.
Okay.
Right? Because I was traveling.
Right.
So I didn't see it right away. I got to see it, recorded. And sprint qualifying didn't look crazy. I mean, it was like Max was at the top, Lando was in fourth,
there was no
Oscar
real drama.
Got his time deleted.
No real drama. It was pretty much that was the drama.
That was the drama.
Oscar Piastri, who's been on top of his game all season.
Yep.
Had his track time deleted that put him out in Q1.
But can we talk about foreshadowing for a second? Because in the sprint qualifying,
right,
the fourth place guy, who was Lando Norris,
right,
takes basically everybody in turn one except for Max, and he's out
for
in
the
front
sprint race.
For the sprint race.
For the sprint race, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's out in front right behind Max. He's chasing Max for the sprint.
Right.
There were some hairy moments. He had some lockups,
Yes.
We almost saw Leclerc go right in the back of him at one point.
Yes.
And Leclerc and Sainz were fighting, which was interesting.
Right. Which I will say this track did really well for the Ferraris overall.
Really well.
And really well for the Ferraris.
I don't know what
and
it
Max
was about the track.
Looked really good too. Something about the Red Bull and that I thought Red Bull was going to be even better this weekend than they were.
Yeah.
But at the start of the race or at the sprint race, the Ferraris looked very good. And
So Max wins the sprint, right?
Yep.
Lando gets on the podium in the sprint.
Right.
We've got 3 different manufacturers represented in the sprint.
Right.
We saw the sprint was really hard on those cars. Do you agree?
Agreed. Well, I'll be honest. The track in general is really hard on the cars.
It is.
And one of the other people we saw struggle, there was 2 people I noticed more than others. Aston Martin really struggled this weekend.
Aston Martin, the onboard camera looked like Fernando Alonso was having a horrible
fighting
that car.
I felt like he was driving at 10 tenths, but the car was only giving him 2 tenths.
Right?
Like it was bad.
I mean, it almost looked like he was driving like a school bus or something. The way he was sawing at the wheel.
Yes. And then the other thing I saw was Hamilton. He just had a bad weekend, but Mercedes as a whole.
He had a really bad weekend.
They brought a ish ton of upgrades this weekend, and it doesn't seem like that did anything for them.
No, so we've got, it kind of looked like Red Bull was going to run away with it in the sprint, right? And so going into the race, I was like, man, Red Bull's going to be out in front, whatever. Yeah. So, for those of you who haven't seen it or don't know, John and Jessica came up to Atlanta this weekend. And we went to a restaurant in downtown Atlanta called Yeppa.
Yes.
And Yeppa is an Italian restaurant, some of the best Italian food. I mean, amazing. John and I can both attest to it. They threw a viewing party, block party.
Yes.
And I brought the Aston.
Yes. I drove the McLaren.
John drove the McLaren.
Rough.
And it was, I'll tell you what, thank you to the folks over at Yeppa. Phenomenal awesome. Food, phenomenal fantastic. Location, absolutely an awesome event. They basically shut the block down. They had Red Bull out there. They had a DJ. They had a huge folding screen that came out. It was really, really cool.
Yes.
I will tell you, the race didn't expect it to go that way. When Ferrari got out in front and then just checked out, I did not see that coming.
Well, it was funny. I asked you before we started recording. I was like, at what point did Max and Norris, they were fighting for first, right? And he goes, no, they were fighting for third.
Third place, yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Ferraris, I guess they strapped their rocket ship on and off they went,
Yeah, I mean, I would say the only complaint I had about the viewing party was it was just so much socializing that I wasn't like focused on the race.
Correct. Same here. I had to watch the highlights before this video just so we could,
but I mean, that wasn't a bad thing. I
really
fault. Enjoyed myself today. Right. It was super fun.
That's not their fault. They had plenty of places where we could have sat down and heard the race.
Oh no, I mean, they were broadcasting the race over the thing,
it was great. It was great.
So it was great.
Yeah, but did an excellent job.
But I will tell you, the race was kind of a snooze fest, right? They took off in the beginning, and
had a few spins. We had a few spins early on.
We had Hamilton go out almost right in the beginning.
Yes,
in the same place George went out in qualifying.
Yes, and I just don't think that car was great this weekend.
No,
I think they struggled really bad. And I mean, Mercedes is still trying to recover from, their freaking 2 years ago. I feel like ever since 2 years ago, they have been trying to recover and recover and recover. And this car has just not given it to them.
It's crazy to think that Hamilton only has a few more races in that car, and then he's gone.
Yeah, but then I guess he's going to the right team because Ferrari just killed it this weekend.
Yeah, Ferrari's looking great.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wouldn't be really upset about that, but Leclerc checked out to the point that it was like he was, at one point I think he was 6 or 8 seconds ahead of Sainz, and then you had Sainz in there, and then
and they clicked off a sub 2 second pit stop.
Yeah,
or sub 3 second pit stop. Like they clicked off a heck of a pit stop,
which is uncommon for Ferrari.
Yeah, they were on their good form come Saturday.
They did everything right today, right? Yeah, so I mean, hats off to them. I'm very impressed. Yeah. I will say that McLaren just looked like they were definitely battling for third. And we get towards the end of the race, and you and I have talked about this. I talked to you about this over dinner. If you look at what happened, right? Even the announcers were saying that basically Lando was pushed wide.
Yes.
And when they showed the replay, I agree with them. I think that he was out in front. I think he got pushed wide. I mean, we know, and you have to admit this, that's a Max strategy. He's done it to everybody. It's a thing, right?
It is.
So Max gets on the radio and says he gained an advantage. He needs to give the place back. Now, granted, there was a hefty bit of battle, leading up to that moment.
Right.
So there was some exciting times in the last, eight laps of the race.
8 laps, yeah.
And, we're sitting there watching it, and Max is like, okay, he gained an advantage. He needs to give the place back. Yeah. And McLaren's group comes over the radio and says, we believe you were ahead in the corner.
Yeah.
We believe you were pushed off. Maintain the position, right?
That was a mistake.
It was a mistake, but here's the thing, right? So I hate when crap like that determines a race, right?
Agreed.
I honestly think that, even if he didn't gain an advantage, I feel like the best thing to do would be one of two things, right? Either one, come out with it immediately and say he needs to give the place back, right? Make the decision immediately.
Instantly. And just say,
I mean,
I think what he should have done is, and I will say, after rewatching it, it looked like Max kind of didn't give him any room, but he was ahead. Okay. And so when he came back on, he went off, but then he came back on and Max was like, okay, you need to give me my position back. And, it all depends on where you look at it in the corner and all that fun stuff. But I mean, going into that corner, Max had the corner. I think.
So I believe, right, that either the FIA should have come out right away and said, hey, you need to give the place back, right?
Right.
Or I think the McLaren team should have erred on the side of caution and just said, give the place back right now, right? And then go get it.
Right. And I think that would have been the better option, regardless. Regardless, they should have just, hey,
because
look, man, the problem you may or may not have been right, but let's just give it back.
The problem was they told him that he was going to get a 5-second penalty on the last lap of the race on sector 3, right? And by that time, there wasn't enough time for him to make up 5 seconds.
No.
And oh, by the way, there was nothing he could do. So at that point, he was going to get 4th place, and at that point, there was almost a risk that he was going to get 5th.
Yes.
If he didn't do something. Yeah. Now I will tell you, when he crossed the line like 4-4 or 4-3 ahead of Max.
Right.
He was close to being 5 seconds, right? Yeah. And I'd have been booking it too, Right. But I just hate that. And I know the incident happened toward the end of the race, right? I get that. I know that it was one of those things that, kind of is what it is.
Right.
But I honestly feel like they should have said, either give the place back immediately and let us, what they should have done is said, give the place back, right? And we'll figure it out. But I think you should have a lap to figure it out. Like we were talking about the other day, right? You shouldn't be allowed to finish a race and then add a penalty afterwards unless there's something wrong when you inspect the car.
I agree.
Right.
To an extent.
So let's say that there was an investigation and they investigated it after the race. If you took 3rd place and then you walk downstairs and they're like, oh, by the way, give this trophy to John because we decided after the race that we didn't like what happened. Right. I don't think that should be allowed.
I agree.
I think that if you're going to do it before you start handing out hardware, you should know who won the race.
Well, I think it was better that they went ahead and slapped him with the 5-second penalty before the end of the race, so that it wasn't an after the race situation where they're reshuffling the people and saying, okay, yes, you could have gotten 4th or 3rd, but instead you got 4th.
I mean,
I don't like that, because then he wouldn't even known.
I don't like that.
Push.
Yeah, I don't like that either. And we've seen that before. That was how Sainz got his first 3rd place win with McLaren. Right. Remember that?
Well, I mean, that's how a bunch of people have been like, here's your win,
because he if anybody's watched Drive to Survive,
it's unreal.
He actually went to the podium after the race and stood up there with everybody and basically had his own little podium, because that was the first time he ever got podium, but he got it because somebody was hit with 5 seconds after they awarded the trophies and everything.
Yeah.
I'm just
when Max won the championship last year, they were like, "Oh, wait a minute, hold on, you won the championship." You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it was like out of nowhere, because there was some kind of reshuffling at the end of the race too. So yeah.
Yep, I remember that.
But
I mean, I it's kind of funny because everybody keeps talking about what a big race this is and how important it is, and I get it, but there's still a lot of racing left to go, right?
yes,
And
got plenty to go, people.
it's not a
Plenty.
guarantee, right? I mean, you could go to Mexico and Max could, have an incident in a corner,
Yeah,
and Lando could, win the race, and all that lead evaporates, right?
Yep.
Goes
away pretty
Lando
quick.
Lando could put it in a corner, and then they'd basically award they'd award Max the title immediately, right? So there's no telling what could happen in the last few races. I mean, that's why we race, right?
Oh, we got 5 more.
Yeah. So we've got Mexico,
yep,
Brazil, Vegas, and then
what are the other
2? Dubai, right? I think there's
Dubai,
just 4.
We got one more.
There's one more.
One more, because there was 6 races until today.
Okay,
unless they were considering the sprint race one, so then maybe it is just 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up. I don't know what the other race is, but I will tell you. And for those of you who watch the channel, first of all, thank you.
Thank you.
We are very close to 300 subscribers, so if you want to, throw us a subscribe, share with your friends, that would be great. We'd
get your
much
mama,
appreciate it.
get your cousin, get your friends. Don't come hang out with us.
So the one we missed was Qatar. So they've got Mexico, Brazil.
That's right.
Mexico, Brazil, Las Vegas, Qatar, and then Abu Dhabi.
Yes. I had to go.
Yep. So I will be in Mexico.
I'll
be in Mexico City. John should be there too, but he has more excuses than I have fingers.
Yeah, it's financial excuses, people.
No. So it'll be interesting to see the race in Mexico City. I'll be honest with you. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good experience. That'll be an interesting race because it's going to be, the home race for Red Bull, kind of, right? So for Sergio Perez,
right?
And I would say he has a huge presence in Mexico, huge following in Mexico.
Yes.
And then we're going to see Pato O'Ward do some testing,
pre-practice driving,
some pre-practice in Mexico. That'll be really cool. I'm a fan of Pato O'Ward.
I like him.
I think he's a great driver. I really like him in Indy. I'm excited to see what he can do in a Formula One car.
Agreed. Yeah. So, I'd love to see him in an F1 car, like, full time. So we'll see.
Yeah. I don't know where I take that back. I know where he'd go.
Aston Martin would be a great location for him to land. But there's a situation there that some people's kids get to drive, and
I don't know what you're talking about. So I don't know. I think the Brazil race is going to be interesting. That's always an interesting track, right?
I love the Mexico track, man. I think it's awesome the way that they drive through the stadium like that. That's just a crazy track.
I'm excited about that.
I'm excited for you. I wish I was there.
You should go.
So yes.
Now the other thing is last year. So last year was the first year in Vegas. Vegas was very interesting, and I would say Vegas was one of the more exciting races we got to see last year.
Yes.
I'm really excited to see Vegas this year. I think we should, rock, paper, scissors and go anyway.
We'll see.
But I think Vegas is going to be a good race. So, mathematically, it's still possible for Lando to win, but Max has to lose by a good bit, right?
By a good bit.
He
has to have some pretty big, like either DNFs or something.
Engine penalties that put him toward the back of the grid or something.
And he can't make it up or something. Yeah.
I mean, and it could happen. It could happen,
Yes.
But we've got 5 more races to go. It's going to be a very interesting season.
Yes.
We've got literally 2 in a row, right? Because we've got a back-to-back. You've got this weekend and then next weekend,
right?
And then we've got a week off, and then you've got the F1 race in Vegas. So it's going to be pretty interesting.
Dude, this year's doing 75 in a 35 mile an hour zone. I'm just saying.
I will say last year,
by, man.
Yeah, last year I was like, man, we got so much more to go. And this year we've had more races.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're coming to the end so quickly.
Yeah, we're getting there, man. So,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping for McLaren to be up at the top step or close to the top step in the next race.
I think that'd be cool.
I'd really like to see Sergio do well.
He needs to do better. Whatever it is, he needs to do better.
I'd really like to see Sergio do well. I would freak out if Sergio won the Mexico Grand Prix.
Yeah. I mean, I think that'd be awesome too. I mean, home race, anytime you see a driver win their home race, like
like Leclerc in Monaco, that was the
amazing.
One race he needed to win, you know?
Well, we've had a lot of different people or different drivers win races this year, more than usual. It's not
this
like
is probably the most
one
exciting.
team just ran away with it,
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the most exciting Formula One season that I've ever been a part of because we've had so many different winners. There's no telling. Last year, you were like, we're watching second place,
Welcome
right?
back
Max,
to the Max Verstappen show.
Max is going to win, and it got kind of repetitive and boring.
We got a glimpse of that this year, though. And
not really.
Like,
I mean, we
got a glimpse of the beginning, and it was like next thing yeah.
But now we're at a point where we could go to Mexico and
see anybody.
Mercedes,
we'll see Liam Lawson take it to the front.
I was just gonna say Williams could get to the front, but I didn't want to sound foolish.
Yeah. No, Sauber.
Oh God.
Yeah, Sauber. Let's see a win.
Can we just talk about that for a second? I like Bottas. I don't know much about Zhou Guan Yu. I will tell you that he is not very no one really talks about him. He
did really well,
but no one says anything negative about him, and no one says anything positive about him. Right, we hear a lot of negative things about a lot of people on the on the roster. We hear a lot of positive things.
We went one whole race, and they didn't say Bottas's name at all throughout the whole race.
Yeah.
The whole time, but there was no coverage on him.
I know. It seems like the beginning of the season was 43 months earlier. Right. But don't forget, at the beginning of the season, they were throwing up 3-minute pit stops, right? And I mean, it was just they couldn't figure out how to change a wheel nut to save their life.
They said going into the season, their car was too heavy.
Yeah,
didn't perform well.
Yeah,
and it was just all the bad things. And
but they have consistently been at the back of the grid. It's insane.
Haas has done better than them, and Haas was okay, we'll see Haas in the back. That was the thing. And now Haas has been consecutively well.
And what's interesting is Haas came out and they were talking to Gunther Steiner, and he said that they don't even have a racing simulator.
Yeah.
That they borrow one.
Real.
Right? They borrow a racing simulator, but it doesn't even have the most up-to-date software because it's an older simulator.
Unreal, man.
And I'm like, how the heck? And to think about that, to think about how hamstrung that team is, and the fact that they're doing as well as they are is kind of impressive.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's interesting to me that they don't have a sim. And we're like, hey, man, how big a sim can we get in this house right now? Is that a possibility?
He was doing an interview and they were joking around with him. And they're like, it's only about $1,000. $2,000. We got one here if you want it.
Yeah, you can borrow this one.
You can borrow this one. I got one in the other room that they can use, But I will say, it's just crazy to think that they are, again, doing as well as they are with the resources that they have. Here's something else I was thinking about yesterday and today, really. Remember last year and the year before, we'd see these cars going around the track, and then all of a sudden, Ferrari motors were just conking out one after the other, right?
Yeah.
Or you'd see the Red Bull motor just completely.
When they made the change from the from the cars before to the aero cars.
Yeah.
That's when we saw a lot of like reliability issues that first year and really changed things up. And I think we're going to see that again next year.
But what's interesting is we're not seeing reliability being a factor anymore.
No. It's not. We have had no DNFs due to reliability this year, period.
Knock on wood.
I don't know
Although, hey, I will say the safety car driver is alive and well. We got to see him in this race. So, it was a big joke that they had like these missing posters and these milk cartons with a car on it. So it was pretty interesting that we finally got to see him.
Well, we did have one DNF. I take that back. We had one DNF for reliability, and that was Red Bull when their tire exploded.
We had
the brake exploded. That was right?
We had the brake fire, which we thought
did not
everybody
bring out
thinks,
a safety car.
No, it didn't. But everybody thinks that was a tear off in the brake duct that overheated the brake duct.
Correct.
So I wouldn't necessarily call it a reliability issue.
Right. More of a consequential issue. Right.
Right. But again, it wasn't like one car.
Right.
We were seeing cars plural.
Yes.
That were going down for engine issues, and we just haven't seen that this year.
Not yet.
Which is
got a lot of racing to do. Let's go.
We still do have 6 races left to go.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 5 races.
5 races.
To go. 6 was today.
5 to go.
Yep. All right. So do you have any predictions for Mexico, or are we done?
I don't.
You're just out.
I'm out, man. I'm so excited to see the race. I'll predict it like this. I think Sergio Perez wins it. I think Sergio Perez wins it, and then we have Liam Lawson second, and Joe Guan Yu, and I probably said his name wrong. Watch the video of us pronouncing cars and names wrong. Joe or Zoe, however you say his name. I see him in third. That's my prediction.
So clearly, John's been drinking heavily this evening.
I'm tired. I'm very tired.
I will tell you that if something like that happened, it would be hilarious and it would be amazing, and I would celebrate it like crazy. I will tell you though that there's a couple of YouTubers out there that do Formula One podcasts, and there's one guy that I watch all the time, and I really think that he does an amazing job. And every week he tries to predict. He basically gives his solid locks, right? What the race is going to be. And this past few times, he'll just go boom, boom, boom. And the thing was, he used to get them pretty good.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden he goes 0 for 3 every time, And it's and I think that's almost a good thing. That just tells you the quality of racing that we're watching. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
Man. Top of the top, baby.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you made it this far into the video, we appreciate it. Like we said before, we are really close to hitting 300 subscribers. You can help us get to 300. We appreciate everybody that has subscribed to this point.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining.
And for those of you who came up to us today and said that you watch the channel or who we are, we appreciate it. We love talking to you. We want to meet more of the people that are watching the channel. We'd love to get some feedback. But I think today was a huge success. I had a great time. Again, thank you, Yepa. Thank you for everybody who came out. And make sure to like, share, subscribe, and come back for more.
Push that button. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.